Starting with you, Dr. Ohiwerei, it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to this space. What we try to do here is to seek to explore the social issues that confront our world and that confront us, and find ways to make us all healthier and better custodians of the world that we're blessed to inhabit. This is my life's cause, and I hope that it is evident in what I try to do through Ruminations blog, the podcast, Ruminations with Oni-Eseleh, our international conferences, and webinars such as this one that brings us all here today. In seeking to analyze problems and create awareness, I am cognizant that none of what we do in this space is possible without the participation and encouragement of others, like all of you who have joined us here today from across the United States, Canada, Nigeria, Ghana, and the United Kingdom. I thank you all. The COVID-19 pandemic thrust our world into a situation that was before then unimaginable to any of us, and changed the way that some of us began to think about life and living. On a personal level, I have found myself questioning orthodoxy in more ways than one. I have wondered about the last thoughts that people have as they struggle to breathe before their lives are taken by illness, injury, or old age. I have increasingly wondered why so many of us are spared of demise, while so many others are not so lucky. And I know it is not because we are better or more religious than others. That any of these can be our plight at any time is truly without question. But even when all is well, I am conscious that I'm getting older, and every day I live brings me closer to the end of my time in this beautiful world that I have been blessed for several decades to have space in. I hope you all share my sentiments because I think we can agree that this is the reality for all of us, even those who may not wish to think or be reminded of it. Therefore, for our conversation today, I am curious to know what aging really means. I want to know what living also means, what it is from the perspective of a renowned sociologist and everyone present here, and how we can each make our lives as productive as possible, so that we leave behind a legacy that we can be content with. And when our lives flash before our eyes at a time when we can no longer effect any change. There is no better person to lead us in this discussion than the esteemed sociologist, Dr. Godwin Ohiwerei, to whom I owe so much for his unwavering support for me personally through the years, for my entire body of work, and my scholastic journey and my career in academia, and his ever readiness to share his knowledge with all of us who seek knowledge, appreciate brilliance and integrity, and desire to be change agents. Dr. Godwin Ohiwerei is at the apex of his field in US academia. He's a full professor of sociology in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at New Jersey City University. For 20 years, I don't know how, but for 20 years, Dr. Ohiwerei served as the chairman of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at his university. I said I don't know how because I know that people actually want to run away from that job because it's a difficult task, even when they've been doing it for less than a year. And while doing that, he was also the interim program coordinator of the African and African American Studies at that university. And I should also just say with great pleasure that in that role, Dr. Ohiwerei also made sure he orchestrated the establishment of a social work program in that university. And he is a board member of the Organization for the Protection of Children's Rights in Canada. He has keynoted several conferences, including one for the International Policy Forum, where the title of his keynote was Citizenship, Responsibility, and Social Change. And also one where I was actually, present, I should just say, to put it mildly, which was the Triple S Conference of Integrative Ruminations, where he spoke on spirituality and religion, intersections between socialization, tradition, genetics, and social progression. I mention these because they are also relevant to what we'll be talking about today as we age. He has presented at many, many conferences around the world, including in China, presented to the Pennsylvania Sociological Society, the Association of Third World Studies, the Eastern Sociological Society, the Cuban and Caribbean Studies Institute, the Association of Black Sociologists at Manfield College in Oxford, England, the African American Studies Conference at the University of Pennsylvania, at the Harvard Kennedy School for International Development and Communication at Harvard University, Princeton University, which you'll probably say is his favorite. And I would say my personal favorite is Yale University, where he has also been. And his publications are numerous. I'll just mention a few. Social Class, Democracy in American Politics, The Ascendancy of the Billionaire Club, The Day Nigerians Killed Democracy, Deconstructing Race and Racism, The Legacy of Malcolm X. And he was the co-editor of the book, Reimagining the Urban Environment, Strengthening Collaborative Relationships in the Inner Cities, and the editor of Developing Strategies for Excellence in Urban Education, and the co-author of Stakes in Africa-United States Relations, Proposal for Equitable Partnership, and many, many others. His professional associations are also numerous. He's a member of the American Sociological Association, a member of the Association of Third World Studies, of the African Studies Association, of the National Council for Black Studies, member of the Comparative and International Educational Society, the National Association of Multicultural Education, the National Association of African American Studies, and he has won many fellowships, and I'll just mention a few of them. He won the Fellowship Award of the National Council for Black Studies, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the New Jersey Project, the New Jersey Institute of Collegiate Teaching and Learning, and currently he's busy, as an external reviewer for sociology in the United States, which puts him in a position where he has to review sociology departments in universities across the country. I will keep everyone here until late if I am going to continue to introduce this man. But I would say, just crave my indulgence and permit my manners for not saying good morning to everyone on the West Coast who is watching us. And good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast of the United States and Canada. And also good evening to everyone in Nigeria, Ghana, and the United Kingdom who have joined us. Our discussion is right now being live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We will be monitoring those platforms for questions. And I will ask anyone who has questions to please just also indicate their questions in our comment section. And following Dr. Ohiwerei's presentation, we'll have an extensive Q&A session. At that time, I will be relaying to him the questions that people are asking and may even bring some people onto the screen if they are not shy to ask him questions. Dr. Ohiwerei, I cannot tell you how delighted I am to have you here. And on a personal note, I have said thank you for my career, everything you have deposited in my life and continue to deposit. That will never end, because I'll continue to call you even at midnight and 1 a.m., whatever time it is, to seek your advice as I also climb the career in academia. But for today, you have a task, and now you're on deck to deliver. Thanks for being here.
My goodness. Thank you, Dr. Eseleh. I'm sitting here wondering, who is he talking about? Not me. Thanks for the invitation. And also, let me thank you for all you have been doing in terms of scholarship. You know, your exercise for scholarship has just been wonderful. I mean, before you got into academia, you've always, on your own, contributed to scholarship out of your own pocket, you know, held these different seminars. So, I mean, if each one of us can do a little bit of what you do, I think it will really help our community. Also, to state that you're one of the few that I know quite embedded in their community. You know, in most cases, people just go to work, come back, that's it. But everywhere you've been, you've done wonderful things, and congratulations for your new position at University of Delaware. Is an opportunity for the institution to really get the best they can from you. And building a brand new social work program is laudable for a premier university, a state premier university. So, and I hope that we'll be able to use this opportunity and scholarship to extend to Nigeria or Africa or, you know, any of these countries, you know, that are not aware of the need for social work program. Also, thank you for this topic of discussion. I want to start off first of all because I know, you know, basically the community that I'm speaking to is an African community in the diaspora. So I will link my discussion in terms of that. But I want to make one thing. I want to make one statement that I think we need to kind of focus on. And that is in terms of Africans' existential self. Africans are one of the few or the only racial group that doesn't quite think seriously about their existential self. They leave their existential self to God. Whereas every other racial group, their existential self is immediate. Look at the Europeans. They have all these weapons, nuclear power, all in defense of themselves. But they also believe in God. They worship. As a matter of fact, when they go to war, they will ask God to protect the soldiers, and the soldiers go to war and do the ultimate. Africans are not a community built because of a long history of colonial domination. And so we have been relegated to simply thinking in terms of ourselves, our children. You know, if anything was to happen to Africa today, look, we are very, very juvenile in terms of how we see the world and how we think about the world. So I'm saying, first of all, that we need to really understand our vulnerability. Every country you go, all over the world, people of dark skin, Africans, are at the bottom of all of the social indicators. Now, personally, you can be doing well, but I'm talking in terms of as a group. You see, when you step outside of your home, nobody sees your PhD or the fact that you are a doctor or whoever you think you are. They just see a Black person. If they're going to do anything to you, it's just going to happen before they find out who you are. So we need to really think about who we are outside of ourselves, which brings up the issue of research. We don't study ourselves. We don't study, other people study us constantly. They understand us more than we understand ourselves. They can come into our community and use it any which way they want. This vulnerability we have to address. Okay, so that's on a general level. Now, in terms of looking at aging, a lot of us are getting surprised, especially those 60 and above. We are getting very surprised, like, what happened? How did I suddenly get to this stage? And worse for those who are retired. So I will come back to that. What I want to do in terms of start off with the aging issue is I want to give two studies, men and women. One is by Daniel Levinson. He did a study on males. And the study was males from 17 to 65. And the study was to look at the stages of development. The first one, those who went to school, you're familiar with Erik Erikson, Eight Stages of Man, but we're doing sociology here. So Daniel Levinson said there are three stages for men in terms of adulthood. The first is early adult transition, midlife transition, and late adult transition. So let me talk about the early adult, and that is from about 17 to 22, adolescence to adulthood. So a man or a boy between 17 and 22, he vacillates between I'm a child and I'm an adult. You tell the 17-year-old, pick up your stuff, do this, do this. He tells you, I'm an adult. The same person who tells you I'm an adult comes back a few minutes later to ask you for $5. So this is how they vacillate. So between 17 and 22, there is that vacillation between the, teen years and adulthood. By the time they get to 22, if they further their education, they're in college. If they don't further their education, they try finding work, right? Dating. So 17 to 22 is a very difficult process for men. Are you a boy? Are you a man? He keeps switching between both. But also understand that some people between 17 and 22 get married. And it is not surprising that when they get married between 17 and 22, there are a lot of crises in terms of relationship because these are not actually matured. Then there is the 23 to 28. Very critical stage. This is the first critical stage for a male. If they go to college, they finish university, get a job, and some of them get married. Now, the marriage age has changed. You know, in the 70s, we were looking at 22. Then it went to 24. For female today, it's 26 on the average. For men, it's almost 30 on the average. The thing about this 23 to 28, there's one area there. About the time they get to 28, they start asking themselves questions. These are men. What have I done with my life? What am I doing with my life? Am I okay? One of the things I want to mention is that men self-medicate. You see, all this discussion that is going on, he processes it in himself. He's not discussing with anybody about it. Men self-medicate. They try to heal themselves. They think they know everything. They have answers to everything. A little kid, if you ask your father, why is the moon there? He will not say, I don't know. He will give you a reason. He has his own, he will give you a reason. If you ask your mother will say, well, I'm not sure. Ask your father. Or we look it up in the library or something. The vulnerability of mothers, it shows. Father knows it all. Now, by the age of 28, he has his very first critical self-assessment. Through that critical self-assessment, he can decide, I'm not doing well. I need to go back to school. I need to find a new job. I need to do something with my career. Something has gone on. He has processed himself. He's tried to figure himself out. He's made a decision. Let me tell you something. Even if he's married, he's not discussing with his wife. On the average, is what I'm saying. He's not going to discuss with his wife. He figured it out himself. So first critical analysis, I'm doing well. I'm in the right place. I finished school. I have a job. Okay. Then there's the 33 to 40. 33 to 40, very important for him. 33 to 40 for the man is when he looks at himself and he wants to be important. He wants everybody to look at him as somebody who is worthy. If he's married with children, he wants his wife to look at him like he's king. You know, it's like your wife turns to you and says, I thank God for you. If not for you, my life, these children, he makes him feel like a king. And so, central to this period is an interest in advancement in terms of money, in terms of prestige, in terms of recognition, contribution to society, establishment of a strong family, right? The family man, right? You know, you look at your wife sometimes and you say, you know, you're lucky. Look at all the in-laws. I'm the most important in-law in your family. Whether it's true or not, that's what he wants to believe. So this 33 to 40 is the same time that if he buys anything significant, a new car, a new set in the living room, a new accomplishment professionally. He wants to sing it. Let everybody hear it. He buys something for the wife. You ask your wife, did you call your sister yet? Did you tell your mother what I bought for? Oh, okay. So invite your family over this weekend because so that they can see how well we are doing. 33 to 40. Also understand that if things are not going well, he's a very troubled man. Now, 40 to 45 is where a lot of things then come up. This is the second self-evaluation for the male. All right. So at this stage, this is the transition to middle adulthood. He's back again, asking himself, how am I doing? How is my life going? If he's not very successful in terms, which is, as he sees it, if he's not very successful in terms of where he wants to be, he's very worried. This is where we talk about the midlife crisis. Now, understand, these stages is not, is on the average. There are different people with different modes in terms of how they go about it. But I just want to give you an outline in terms of a man's transition through life. Question again, what have I done with my life? Now, as a matter of fact, part of this question is, this wife I'm married to, should I still be with her? Is it worth this relationship? These children giving me headache? He's going through his self-evaluation again. Wife has no clue. Everybody's going about their business. Now, what kind of changes occur at this stage? Now, maybe it's a job, professional change. He needs to look for a new job to make things better. Maybe a divorce. Maybe a love affair. Because this is what women don't understand sometimes. Some men, they believe that a love affair, look, this might sound very, juvenile. But the love affair is, my wife is giving me a whole lot of problem. I don't want to divorce her, but I need some leverage. I need some way out of this. So he has an affair. Now, the affair is an outlet for him. The problem here is the woman he's having an affair with can be very hopeful because he talks so bad about the wife and why he's with her. Once he starts that affair, some of these men come back home, the wife nags him, he won't say a word, you just sit there. He won't quarrel with you, he won't fight, you can hit him, he just sits there. And you look at him, you're not listening to me. He knows I can deal with this now because once I step out tomorrow, I go relax myself. The problem with the other woman is that he's thinking there's hope. Look, a man who is having an affair is not looking for a second wife. You're just being used. Very, very low percentage of men who are having an affair, even when the wife finds out and the wife is ready to divorce him or divorce him, he's not going back to the mistress. He's going to a new relationship. The mistress is not to replace a wife. I already have a wife. I don't want another wife. And then, women will ask, are you in love with her? He'd never even thought about that. Because women operate differently. So, on the other hand, so that's a love affair. He can decide, I have a love affair. Once things start getting okay at home, he ends that relationship. He cuts it off. I'm okay now. And all of this time, wife doesn't know. Suddenly, everybody's thanking God. All this problem we have been having, we've been going to church now. My husband has changed. I'm thankful. He's just looking at everybody. Some are unfortunate, they get caught. That's a whole different story. Sometimes between this 40 and 45, they can decide to change community. They buy a new house. Or he can engage buy a sports car. Because by 45, he's starting to see changes in himself. He wants to be that radiant, viral man. Now he's starting to understand there's a weakness on my leg here, or whatever the case is. I need to look young again. So that can be an issue for him. Or he decides, I've taken an evaluation of my life. Everything is okay. I'm in the relationship. Wife has no clue. He's decided, you are the woman I want to be with, and so be it. He stays. The wife has no clue what has been going on in the mind of this man that I'm with, and how almost this close, the relationship almost ended. 50 to 55, a man continues to cope with midlife transition. He's still struggling. Or he's very happy and content. But he's forever trying to do better in any which way he thinks he can. 55 to 60, here we are. That is the age, this part that we are talking about now. 55 to 60, where a lot of people start to see major changes in their lifespan. This man who used to be all out there won't stay home, running around, hanging with his boys, traveling all over the place. The wife says, let's go so. He's not interested. This same man suddenly flips. He's not a family man. He stays at home most of the time. The wife is looking at him like, what is wrong with this man? He doesn't go out anymore as he used to. He's not talking about family. Did you call Junior yet? He has not called us since, we've not heard from him. And you're wondering, what the heck is going on with this man? Suddenly he's asking of the children, when are the grandchildren? Tell the wife, call him, call our daughter. We've not heard from him. When are they coming? This same man that never used to stay at home. At 60, we can get rid of him from his chair. Or the other part of it is, this man that never used to hang with his wife or go to places with his wife, everywhere he wants to go now, he's asking the wife, can you go with me? The wife says, I don't feel like it. Why not? I don't want to go by myself. What do you mean you don't want to go by yourself? Yeah, I don't want to go by myself. If you are not going, I'll stay. the man doesn't understand what is, the wife is in a quandary. And the wife is almost looking at him. This man that I have right now at 60, where was he 30 years ago? This man that is so concerned about family, what is going on? Worse, if he's retired. Let me hold on to that. I'll come back to that. Let's look at the female. 18 to 60. Women's lives are very different. Look at what we just talked about in terms of men. You can actually monitor a man from 17 to 60. It's not the same with a woman. A woman has a short spell, a short time to actually be by herself. Except for now, these Gen Zs, they are now extending, the time for themselves. They graduate from college, they take a job, they are very heavy on their jobs. And some of them by 30, they still not, they're not married. They're doing their thing, running their career. This is not the standard, right? 1970, 18 to 21 is already thinking of a family, because a lot of people don't go to college now. You have to understand that university is what I'm talking about. One thing for women is the best, I always tell my students, the best birth control pill is education for a woman. As long as she stays in school, she's not going to get pregnant. If she gets pregnant, that pregnancy is going to disappear. Once she stops school, relationship kicks in. And the other thing, and I'm going to talk about stereotypes in terms of men and women, but let me just go through this quickly. So between 18 and 28, a lot of women have had their first child. Okay. A lot of women, married or not, with a child. So the window for a woman to be by herself is very narrow. Even today, even to those who are very educated, their parents start to hustle them. Once they're out of university, they have a job going. The next thing is marriage. And the reason why I'm saying the window is very narrow is because a lot of men don't get the point that, part of the socialization of a woman is that her family is more important to her than work. Maybe I should digress a little bit and quickly just talk in terms of the stereotypes for men and women and come back to this, because I think this would be best in terms of analysis. So what are the stereotypes for males? Remember now I'm saying stereotypes. Instrumental leadership. Men are task and power oriented. Business, success, right? Motivation. Analytical reasoning. Men are always intellectualizing. Remember that I'm saying stereotype, okay? So, you don't want to be sitting next to your husband and saying, really? So these are stereotypes. These are our socialization process. With men, identity is based in terms of achievement. Identity is based in terms of achievement. A man's identity is from his work. A man's identity is not from his family. A happy man at work is a happy man at home. A sad man at work, there's nothing you can do to make him happy at home. If he's miserable at work, Don't try to say the children and I love you and all that stuff. You know, you will even annoy him by doing that. His success, this is what capitalism has done to us. The capitalist spirit has made us robots of work. Our being is in our work. And this being in our work is what affects us when we retire. And I'll come back to that. So the man's identity is in his terms of his achievement. Anger and blame are externalized for the man. Anger and blame are externalized, meaning men always blame others for their mess. They never look to themselves, look in the mirror and say, I am the problem. No, my wife's mouth runs too much. It's my wife doesn't understand me. She gives me headache. The children are always bothered. You know, I'm trying. They don't appreciate what I do. You know, men generally externalize blame. Men fear failure. Men fear failure. If he messed up, he doesn't want the wife to tell him. And you know your wife is going to repeat it 100 times. Remember 5 years ago what you did? We were driving. It was 2 o'clock. Men hate failure. They do not. So if you're going to discuss failure with him, he's just going to tell you, okay, talk about it and let it rest. So I'm listening. Just this one time. Men don't like failure. Men exhibit strength and hide weakness. They like to brag about themselves. Don't tell them about their weakness. They don't want to hear that. So when a man meets you, he wants to know everything that is wrong with you. And he's look at you and tell you, Superman is here. Your life is going to change now. It hurts me that this man treated you this way. Or your boyfriend. I'm here now. Men exhibit strength and hide weakness. Men are very competitive. Very competitive. Men also are loners. L-O-N-E-R. Loners. They like to be by themselves. Look, you can have a small house, a small space, one room. He still wants a corner for himself. His little chair and table. One room you share, he still wants a space for himself. He wants a chair for himself. You live in a very big house, he still wants a little corner for himself. Physical distance. He only wants to bother you when he's interested. He doesn't want you to bother him. In his mind, he's a hunter, not you. If he's interested in you, he's going to bug you, even when you have other things to do, as the female. Physical distance. The other part of it also is that men generalize. They see these trees, but not the forest. You can dress all you want. You buy all your gold. You do all of that. A man wants to take you out. You adorn yourself and look good. Ask your husband what you wore yesterday. And let's see if he will remember. I'm not talking about the dress. I'm just talking about the color. Just the color. Men generalize. You are the one that will tell the man, listen, look at this here, this part. He never seen it. The woman is the one, she will notice, oh, come here. By the left of your ear, let me see. That's the reason why little children run from their mothers. Once your mother says, come here, the child takes off. Because the child knows you're going to start to inspect all parts of his body or her body. So in the case of women, stereotypes, expressive leadership, emotions, nurture and support. These are the socialization. Remember now, I'm giving this generalization, does not mean they are that specific to each relationship. There are many women that are very competitive in a relationship. Nurture and support is not their game. They are looking at, my husband made 100,000 today, this year. I made 120. Yes. So I'm just generalized. Expressive leadership, nurture and support. The other is in terms of emotional reasoning. Women use emotional reasoning, intuition. She looks at you, she knows something's wrong with my husband. Man, something's going on. Yep, something's going on. And I'm going to find out about it. Her FBI, CIA hat is on. Look, women can be very patient. If they're going to find out something about you, there's no time limit on it. 6 months, 1 year, doesn't matter. 1 week. She's noticed something, she's going to get to the bottom of it. She's going to find out what it is. And she might ask you, everything okay? Oh yeah, everything's okay. She's on it. Sometimes she will call her friend, you know, my husband, there's something about him. Something's on them. Between herself and her friend, they get to work. And then she finally finds out. So this is what has been going on. I've been looking at myself in the mirror and I've been wondering, am I the problem? I know I'm not the problem. Now, the man is going to get it. And she will start with very little questions. You know, when are you going to work? You know, how is work? It is that. She will ask you a simple question. She wants to see if you will lie about it. And then you lie. She calls her friend. He lied. And the friends, look, by the time you find out, everybody knows what you've been doing except you. Intuition for women is powerful. This is not intellectualizing on any level. Intuition. This other point I want to raise, men need to very much understand, especially why wives tend to nag you. For women, identity depends on feelings of others towards self. Identity depends on feeling of others towards self. A woman's identity is not in her, is not with her. Remember, man's identity is work, success, achievement. Woman's identity is family. Which means the success of the husband she wears. This is why in Africa, if a man is very successful, the wife is the one who wears it. Do you know who my husband is? Do you know who you are talking to? You are talking to me. Do you know who I am? Well, if the husband is very successful, what if the husband is not successful? Remember, her identity is tied to her husband and children, not herself, really. In other words, even if she's successful, she doesn't wear that on her collar. Now, remember, now I'm talking stereotype. I'm not saying there are no women that go out there bragging, my useless husband, I'm talking about generally speaking. She doesn't wear her success. As a matter of fact, there are women that will buy something with their own money and lie to her friends. See what my husband just surprised me with. I just came home and, this guy is on the driveway. I didn't even know what happened. I didn't know. You know him. You never know what he's going to do. She bought it. Or you go to a restaurant, he doesn't have the money. The waiter comes and presents him. She slides the money under the table to the husband. Identity depends, a woman's identity is very tied to her husband and children, or to her parents and siblings, right? Not to herself. Because we tend to raise women to sacrifice, not to be selfish. The socialization process is what I'm talking about, right? But today, whereby a lot of women have become very successful, have the same kind of education as the man and all of this, we are finding situations where tradition doesn't meet with achievement today. In sociology, we talk about the difference between technology and culture is cultural lag. But we do not study the lag, right? I mean, where in some societies, a woman has to take permission from the husband to take birth control pills, right? So you have the birth control pills, technology. You have culture, subordinate yourself to your husband, the gap. But subordinating yourself to your husband, you're doing better than your husband. You are more successful than your husband. All the initiative accrues through you, right? The other is, for women, they internalize blame. Remember now, I'm talking stereotype. They internalize blame, always asking, what am I doing wrong? My husband's not talking to me. Now what? What did I do? What? Well, it's not like you go to your husband and you say, what is your problem? You see, you do that. I will discuss this later. When a woman gets to her 50s, it's a whole different ball game. She can look at you and say, you have a problem. When you get it solved, then we talk, because I don't have time right now. That's different. And I'm going to get to that in a bit. Ambivalence about success. For a woman, am I too ambitious? But they want to promote me at work. How do I tell my husband that I may not be coming home till 7 p.m.? Will he take care of the children? This ambivalence about success. Or a young lady who is doing extremely well in her occupation and the parents are hustling her. When are you going to get married? All this, all this that you are buying, all these things you are doing, it means nothing, except it doesn't mean anything until you have a child and a husband. And the child looks at you and says, but I'm happy. You don't know anything. I'm your mother, I'm telling you. Once you have that child, you will find out all these years you have messed up. Women exhibit weakness and high strength. Women exhibit weakness and high strength. Look at all these talk shows. A lot of women come and tell you all their problems. They don't have problem talking about their problems. It's the husband that tells the woman, if you ever talk about this to anybody, I will cut your head off. I don't want anybody to know about this. Then the woman looks at you, but we're having problems. We will figure it out. Just give me time, I'll figure it out. But your friend says there's this opening for this job. Don't talk to him. I'm not going out there begging anybody. Women exhibit weakness, high strength. You go to a place, you're talking to a woman. Before you know it, you are bragging, you're making 6 figures. Then you ask the woman, what do you do? Then you find out the woman earns more than you. You are deflated. Men exhibit strength, hide weakness. Women exhibit weakness and hide strength. Women are not competitive. Women tend to be cooperative. Generally speaking now, okay, I'm talking about the socialization process, right? So the reason I'm going through all of this is, there has to be a background as to our behavior pattern. I cannot just talk about aging and don't give a background in terms of how certain things happen and why we tend to find ourselves in certain situations that we find ourselves. Okay, so let me go back now to where I stopped in terms of talking about the women's socialization. Then you will understand based in terms of the stereotypes that I just discussed. So between 22 and 28, say for instance, she's married. She has a child, right? You go from, marriage is almost like everything's supposed to be wonderful because you are now married as a woman. You now have a husband. Your family says, thank God my daughter now has a husband. She's married now. All these years of being single, I've not been able to sleep good. Now my daughter is married. The challenges of marriage she doesn't know. Understand, the first 10 years, the first 5 years of your marriage is extremely challenging. Extremely challenging. Because you're trying to know each other. And the reason why it's very challenging is because marital satisfaction just drops once you start being with each other, living with each other. And with a baby, you're trying to negotiate now because the baby now determines your life. The baby determines whether you will leave home today or not, whether you go to work or not. You get up in the morning, you dress ready to get out the door. Your child says, Mom, my tummy hurts. Your day is over. Okay. So marital satisfaction drops, and for the woman is a struggle because of the inconsistency in the job market. A woman that was doing extremely well before on her own, she can get up at her time, she can do whatever she wants to do. Now, with a husband and a child, it's a different story. Now she has to call at work, tell them, I cannot come in this morning because my child is sick. And understand that at the end of the day, the responsibility of the child is tied to the woman. When you have your first child, the man wants to be there. Meeting with the doctor, or he wants to be there, follow up. Second time, let me check my schedule so that I can be there with you. 6 months later, ask him, what is the pediatrician name for our baby? He stopped going. And now from here on, is really you and the child. You know, mothers work with their children closely. They build a relationship over the years. The man built an occupational relationship over the years. Now, let me segue to then talk about the African introspection in terms of this. The woman, African women are very weak in terms of power in the relationship when they marry and start having children. The man is very powerful. He has a job, makes the money, he has the power. He makes decisions on what to do. Now, some men will tell you, but I always talk to my wife. If my wife doesn't agree with it, I do not do it. Well, yeah. The fact of the matter is, the end of the day, you go make a decision. You tell your wife, these are the three, whatever. Look for a fourth one if you want. Then you look at the four and you say, okay, my wife wants this. You still make the decision. If you don't want it, it's not going to happen. But the woman, the African woman, knows, in many cases doesn't. We find out when she gets to be 50 and above, her power in the family strengthens. Once an African woman, children start to become independent, they graduated, they have their jobs, they're doing well. The role of daddy and the power of daddy, I don't care what your job is, how much money you have, how many houses, whether you are president of Nigeria or Ghana or the prime minister of Canada. In your home, your wife starts to exhibit her strength, her children. I raised it. I put my sweat on these children. Now they made it. If your husband just says a few things, you just, call your son up and say, I want to come spend 2 weeks with you. Tell your dad that your child is sick and you need me. What is the father going to do? The father will say, don't go to me. The father does something. You call up your daughter. Your father is shouting at the background. Suzanne, Mommy, what's going on? You know it's your dad again. You know him. Oh my goodness, you are at it again? Well, that's my life. That's my life. Mommy, come spend time with me. Okay. Look, the man starts to notice by 55, his power is waning. Children come, or suddenly children are sending stuff to their mom. Children can send gifts to their mother. You don't buy stuff for your dad because your dad has always been the one that has it all. So what are you going to give him that he's going to appreciate? You do not understand as a child that even if you give that father $5, it makes a whole lot to him. It's not the point. You just don't understand. You know, if you give your mom anything, she will just be singing and dancing. Your dad is not going to do that. So once the children grow up, once they are independent, the power of the males goes down. This is why some men will say, you know, my wonderful wife, all these years, I don't know the devil that has come into her. She doesn't listen to me. Every little thing I say is an argument. Every little thing is an argument. My son or my daughter came yesterday to visit. They were all in one room talking. I'm in the living room. Nobody thought about sitting with me and talking. They were with their mother. They come, their mother is the one that they all gravitate towards. And you know, my wife, she will cook up and down because her son is coming or her daughter is coming. Yeah, her grandchildren are here. She will spoil them. And you're sitting there looking at them. So, aging, this is where we are. So let's talk about from 60 and up. From 60 and up, some men retire 60, 65. Retirement is a problem for men. Once the children no longer depend on you as a man, the question is, where then is your power in the family? The culture that says the older you get, the more respectable, today is not there. We have been displaced, Africans generally. Educated Africans have been displaced. We are all over the world. For example, in Nigeria, a lot of 65 and up, there's nothing to brag about. Those who were successful, they send their children abroad. Their children are scattered all over, some in London, some in Canada, some in the United States, some in Japan, some in China, all over Europe. You are retired. You are sitting at home. What do you do? Wake up every morning, pretend you are busy. Look, I have a friend that the wife called me and says, you have to talk to your friend. I said, what is wrong? Since he retired, for the last 3 months that he has retired, he gets up the same time every morning. He puts on his shirt and puts on the tie. He goes in front of the computer, sits down, and is doing all kinds of stuff. But the one that wonders me, he dresses up. Those in Nigeria, a lot of them, those who are successful, their children are not in Nigeria because they send their children out because everything is wrong with Nigeria. Ghana, any of the African countries is the same. Everybody talks bad about their country. No job, nothing. Send their child out overseas. I was talking to a friend last week. I said, especially Nigerians are worse though, because Nigerians badmouth their country than any other person badmouths Nigeria. But I told a friend, I said, Nigeria is not the problem. Nigerians are the problem. You and I. Nigeria is a beautiful place. Remove everybody in Nigeria. Let these Europeans come in and let them take over it and see what they do with it. Let Europe empty itself. They go to Nigeria, then or Africa, and let all the Africans go to Europe and not take over Europe and do what you want to do with it. It's not the country. It's about the people. We are all, as Africans, in the diaspora, at home, we are all part of the failure. But we tend to point finger. The president did this, look what they are doing, kidnap this. Who is supposed to fix it? Somebody else is supposed to fix it. Then we then go back and enjoy it. But at the same time, we badmouth Nigeria, talk about Africa, talk about how hopeless Africa is. And our children are listening to all this stuff we're talking about. And then you retire, you are 65, you retire, you are wondering why your children don't want to come to Nigeria and visit you. All I ask my child 1 week to come see us is not, we've not seen him in 5 years. So we have to go to see him. Your child is a medical doctor. Anyway, okay. But anyway, some would say I'm the lucky one. My children are abroad. They are doing very well. I tend to go to see them, and my health care is taken care of, and I come back to Nigeria. Anything wrong, I can pick up the plane because they work at residency for me and everything, so I can just up and go. Really. Because you are the one who will determine the illness, isn't it? A former commissioner in Edo State who used to come to the US, as a matter of fact, Maryland, to visit his wife. He has a wife and children. He was the commissioner for health. He used to come here for his seek medical attention. There was an ESCO meeting called by the governor, and where they were, he had a heart attack. He couldn't even get an ambulance on time to pick him up from there and take him to the hospital. He was commissioner for health. With your children abroad and you fall ill, is there enough time to package you to go to your children? Sometimes your wife and children, your wife is in England today, is in Canada tomorrow, is in the US, running around the kids. You are in Nigeria with the house help by yourself. At least you are in Nigeria, you have places to go to. You have people to visit. Your friends come visit you. I visited a friend in Nigeria. He has, your friends sometimes come visit you. They spend the whole day. They just sit down in the chair, take a nap. Both of you take a nap. Wake up. You look at him. You okay? Yeah. Okay. Another beer. Okay. What of those in the diaspora? You're retired. What do you do? There's nobody around. All of your life, remember, identity based in terms of achievement. All of your life was work. You never even had time to answer the phone from friends. I don't want to be bothered. I have things to do. You look at the phone. I don't want to be bothered. You are now 65. Suddenly you are calling all your friends you've not called in 20 years. My friend, how now? You just abandoned me. Is that it? You know the truth. You are alone. You wake up every day. You are at home. You go to sleep every day. You are at home. Nothing doing. What about wife and children? You're in New York. Your child is in California, Iowa. Cause maybe as frequent as possible. You are with your wife at home. What if your wife is employed and works? She gets up in the morning, she's gone. You are at home. Nowhere to go. You walk down the street. You go to the shopping center, sit by yourself. What do? What have you done between 30 and 60 to prepare yourself for this day? In most cases, the capitalist mindset and the spirit that dominates us pushes us in terms of acquiring wealth and bragging about how much we have in our bank account, in our 401. We've not made connections. We've not built connections. And worse, you don't even have the 401. You don't even have anything except your Social Security check. Now you are looking at your wife and you are saying, do you have to go again? Can't you take off from work? And so this is where we are in terms of how we need to reflect. It's not late, but understand that this wife now who leaves home and go to work is just doing what you've always done. Some families want to force the woman to retire. We can make it. We have money. We have enough money. She is not staying home with you. She still has a drive. And so she's going to pursue that drive. So my discussion here is more of a reflection first, not solutions, just a reflection in terms of how we've come to where we are. All right. Ohiro, the mic.
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much. I came on because we have many questions, and I know that you probably need to just speed through them.
Okay.
The first one that I want, usually I will take the liberties to ask the first question, but I'm not going to do that today. I will ask my questions interspersed with these, but I really like to thank you for all of this. I want to assure the person who asked this question from Nigeria that I will not take this personally, because the question speaks directly to something that's like an attack on people like me. He said, young men are more vibrant, they have more vigor. So do you not think, therefore, that a man of 35 years old will make a better leader than someone who is over 50? What is your perspective on that as a sociologist? In other words, people like us are ancient.
No. You see, this is the mistake we make. And this is a very important question. And I hear that often. I mean, we have Biden and Trump right now running for office. One of them is going to be president in the fall, right? The problem we have in Africa is that our very learned individuals are trashed after 65. Look, we don't have foundations. We don't have enterprises. We don't have research centers where we tap into this mindset. A 35-year-old, I'm more interested in what scholarship are you bringing to the table? It's not the age. It's a question. Look, there are a lot of Africans, a lot of Ghanaians, a lot of Nigerians, all over the world with tremendous scholarship who can do a lot of things for the country, right? But we don't tap into them, right? And so what I'm saying is, it's not the age, is the scholarship. Now, if a 35-year-old has the scholarship tested, right? For example, when you were 20 something years old, you worked with a governor, you were assistant, you were commissioner, you were this, you were that. By the time you're 35 years old, you want to run as a governor. I will look at you much more important than the 60 something year old who is just going to brag in terms of, I'm the chief of my village, right? So it's a question of what is it that that qualifies you for whatever you have. It's not just a question of how young you are. Remember now, in the 60s, 70s, we had governors who were 25 years. Diet Smith was 25 when he became governor of River State, right? Gowon was 32 as president of Nigeria, right? Most of the governors were in their 20s that took over the country, right? I told a friend, I was 17, 18 years old. I was recruited. We had Midwest then. It just had Dan Bendel. Then it had a TV station. And, we were, there were about 600 of us. And they took 3 of us. And by 17, 18, I was reading news. Today I cannot even imagine it. Who hired me for that kind of a position? I had 2 programs on television. I was 18, 17, 18. By 18, I just finished high school, right? So there are different times that calls for different situations. So what I'm saying is, let's not just restrict to say, the young leads, and then we need to step aside. I'm more interested in what scholarship does the individual have. Now, in terms of research, in a lot of cases, look at the universities all over. There's no retirement age. It's all about your scholarship, right? Kissinger was still running his firm. It was 99, still going to the office. We were still doing business for China, Russia, and a host of other countries. We are all different, right? Sometimes, we cannot just use one slate to then just say, this is what this, to be. But let's respect the individual and their scholarship, no matter the age.
There are 2 questions that I think I should probably lump together. One of them says, does life begin at 40 mean anything in sociology? And the other one is, in what ways would mindset affect positive aging? That is, does life begin at 40? And one can actually internalize that. And all right, so
remember what I said, for the man at 40, right? 40 to 45 is a transition, right? That's when he actually takes stock of himself, whether he's doing well, if he needs to make a change in terms of direction in life, a new job, right? Whatever adjustment he needs to make, 40 to 45 is a critical time. Midlife crisis can set on if life is not going well for the individual. So 40 is very critical, right? To say life starts at 40, it depends on where you are in the continuum, right? Whether or not you've evaluated yourself and you feel you're doing great, or you've evaluated yourself and you feel there's changes that needs to be done. Because it is that 40 to 45, whatever changes you start to make through there is going to lead you to 60. See, you can, by 60, you really achieved a lot of the things you want to achieve. You can't be starting at 60. And to those who failed to do anything for themselves between 30 and 60, when you are now 60, you're looking for a job, it's a problem.
Right. If you don't mind me stopping you there, because there's a second part to this second question that I wanted to reserve. But since you mentioned the specific age and you said by the time you're 60, you've achieved a lot, I want to go back to you mentioning Erickson when you began the presentation. Because Erickson, in his psychosocial stages of development, I think the last one, the 8th stage, he said that a conflict that one tries to resolve at that stage is a conflict between integrity and despair.
Yes.
So that if you, so that as you look back and you feel that you actually have lived a good life and have achieved, like you just said, the things that you've achieved, it is integrity. Otherwise, it's despair when your life is full of regrets and you haven't done all of that. But if that conflict is successfully resolved, then it leads to what he calls wisdom.
Yes.
So the question then is regarding, it goes to that the second part of that question. What I said I wanted to resolve. If against that background, that we both agree on in Erickson's formulation, the question is: could you please kindly touch on some specific factors that affect positive aging?
I'm glad you brought up the issue in terms of integrity versus despair. All right. What I want to garner from this is, even when, integrity in itself, by 60, is no longer a question of looking at yourself based in terms of achievement. You have to look beyond the achievement part occupationally. I think 60 is a time when you need to take your health very seriously. A lot of people don't do that. They are still counting their monies. They're still thinking that they will live another 30 years, right? I have a friend who is, he's trying to buy an equipment, and he's saying the last one he had lasted 30 years, but he's 75 and he wants to get something that will last the same like the one he had before. And I said, my friend, in another 25 years, you'll be 100. So what is this thing in terms of you are struggling to figure out which to find the right item that will last another 35 years? Who's going to be using it? Now, I don't know how long you're going to live. Maybe you live to 135. But my point is, by 60, your health becomes very critical. Your well-being becomes very critical. This is where I want to emphasize you need support. You need a companion of some sort. If you are married, good for you. Because a married couple have longer span of life than unmarried couple. At the same time, unhappily, if I would put it that way, married couple are more at the bottom. Married men have much better life and lifespan than non-married men. Single women have the best. So for a man who at 60 is not married, doesn't have a significant other, you are setting yourself up for despair. And I'm serious about this, because if something happens, they always say, I don't need a woman, I'm doing good by myself, I don't want any headache. But my friend, if you are by yourself, if something happens to you, somebody is going to have to take care of you. You can't do it by yourself, depending on what it is that you're suffering from. So at 60, I'm much more, I want to put the significance in terms of well-being. This integrity versus despair aspect of it, we need to extend it in terms of health. Because if you can maintain a good health, this is where your wife has been nagging you all the time. Now you want to go to a doctor. Men go to doctors and they just want the doctor to say you're fine. That's it. What is wrong with you? Nothing really. But there are a couple of things that you don't think are important. If your wife goes with you, your wife will talk about everything. Oh, doctor, by the way, when he sits down, his leg shakes a little bit. What is that? Your husband is looking at the wife. That is nothing, right? So my point is the positive aging aspect of it is your ability to be able to use your success, to be able to combine your success with your well-being. Those are the two areas that we need to look at. Understand, if you have achieved economic success, right? But then the question is, what about your well-being? So that positive then means your ability to be able to take care of yourself and the ability to be able to have the success. And if you do not at this stage have a significant order, look for one. You don't have to be married. It could be a girlfriend. It doesn't, or a lover. I'm just saying, you need somebody, one or two, that if you pick up the phone, they will be present. Because to live alone after 60, you are playing a very dangerous game. So defining this positive aging is your ability to be able to do these reflections. Where am I in my position of well-being, and how am I taking care of this? And who are those that are important in my life at this stage? When I say important in your life, I'm not talking about your general friends. I'm talking about a significant person.
Thank you. So just to sort of summarize some of what you said, as far as that positive aging aspect, you said success, paraphrasing success, the way that we define it is not enough. We also need to be careful with our health, well-being, and develop social connections. And this is especially the case for men. And
case for men. As in the case of women have already developed that. Women are better than men. Women have good friends. Look, when I talk about good friends, you don't need 5. 1, 2. I'm talking, you pick up that phone, you can open up and talk about anything. Women also have their children, right? It doesn't mean all your children are there for you. You just need one. Look, we talk about I have children. There are children that only when they hear you are dying, they will respond. I talk to mom. She sounds fine. It's good. But there's one that I heard mom and, I need to go see her. But women build relationship better than men do. Men are loners, and it gets them when they get to that 60-something. It gets them because they don't build relationships.
I have a few questions from Canada, but one of them, I want to lay that question with a foundation. Social exchange theory that talks about the idea that when we are young, that relationship is really unequal between children and their parents, but the balance shifts as children get older and now don't have to depend so much on their parents, and it turns around so that their parents then begin to really, the parents then tend to begin to depend on their children. So that balance shifts. And culturally, that was always the case with our relationships with our parents in Africa. But it did say something that that balance has shifted so drastically that parents really have to prepare. And now I have a question from Canada that says, to guide against loneliness in our later years when wives hop between their children's homes, what is your suggestion for what men should do? Should they, for example, seek younger women companionship? And, you know, so what is it? Because this is really relevant because we have seen that cultural shift. I was always one of those scholars who would really look at social exchange theory and say, it sort of presents everyone as a rational actor. That, in other words, I am a parent. I'm raising my children as well as I am because I expect them to take care of me in future. So I better be good to them now. And so I recall that I was actually saying this in class, teaching a graduate class. And one student said to me, even though I was born here, my children are from my parents are from the Dominican Republic. And they always told me from when I was a child that it would be my responsibility to care for them. So that's what I believe. But what we are talking about, which is also, it seems to me, the context within which this question was asked, it's no longer the case. It's almost like if you are a man, you should probably not expect to be taken care of because your spouse is going to be hopping from, according in that person's language, hopping from one child's home to another. You had actually alluded to that in the beginning, but the question really is, his question is, how should men prepare for that inevitability?
Like I said, it's never too late. A Filipino friend, a colleague, the son, the mom, they're very traditional, but they raise their children, quote unquote, regular Americans, separating the culture. All they were interested for their children, success, get educated, be a doctor, be this, right? Now the child has achieved that. But the traditional aspect of being a Filipino was never called in, because the mindset of the colonial, that colonial mindset is, tradition is backward or whatever the case is. But anyway, the mother told the son, now that you're a doctor, make sure you're going to take care of me because I put in all the, mothers don't beat around. And the son looked at the mom and said, Mom, isn't that why you have your 401k? What am I supposed to do for you? You have your 401k. That's not the point. The point is your presence, right? So in terms of what do you do? One of the things I think is very important is you have to have a relationship, a good relationship with somebody, a male friend. I'm not talking 2, 3. You have to have one good friend that you can depend on. This dependency, in a lot of cases, builds over time, right? This is not something you just pick up and deal with. In other words, it's not a one-way street, right? I always call you, but when you call me, I don't answer the phone. I'm talking about some level of reciprocity and equity, right? Number one is you need a good friend. You need somebody that you don't have to put airs on with. I mean, you can discuss whatever with that person. And that person is not going to violate, that exchange, right? The other is, and this is going to be funny if I say it, your wife, if you're married, need to recognize your best friend, not your friend, not your best friend. Wives sometimes pick a different friend for the husband that the husband pick for themselves. Because the husband is picking somebody that he runs around with, right? The wife is looking at another friend they have that is very family oriented. He wants the husband to be closer to that person, right? In other words, you need a friend. The other part, you need to be able to build some relationship with your children. One of the things men don't like to do, they don't like to leave their homes and go see their child. They want the child to come visit them. I'm saying if your child lives in one room, go visit your child. Don't go with your wife. Your wife will take over. I'm talking about you just go visit your child and you have a 2 days relationship. Build your relationship outside of your wife with your child. So on the other point, please don't look at your child that is not doing well as a disgrace to the family, because your measure is not your child's measure. I have a friend, he did finance, he graduated from university. This is American. And the father was very disappointed that after 5, 6, 7 years of graduating, he's still making $40,000. The father confronted him. What he always did, but this time the child looked at the dad and said, "Dad, do I ever come to you to ask for money?" In other words, I'm happy with my life. All right. So whatever your children, you need to build some level of relationship with them, not indirect relationship. It has to be a direct relationship. Don't tell your wife, call our son to find out, or call out. No, I will speak to, your old self of disciplinary dad. Shelve it. You can't be disciplining your 40-something-year-old, right? Just shelve that. They are adults now. You have to deal with them. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to work with them. So building this relationship, right? On the other hand, I don't believe that you can have any, the woman is young, old, whatever, doesn't matter, because there are young women who are very traditional mindset. It's not that she's young, therefore, right? Sometimes, who you are with has a lot to do with the chemistry that is between both of you. These are not set issues.
I will ask so that people can have the rest of their day back, especially those in the UK and Nigeria and Ghana, where it's already late in the day.
Okay.
I am going to ask, I will not get to the people on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. Yes, so I will send some of those questions to you off grid. But just there is someone who is young. I am not sure where from, but said for a young man, 17 plus, what should be my focus?
Oh, wonderful.
And how do I navigate my life in a world filled with vices? I'm not sure where he's watching from.
Oh, beautiful. The world is yours. This is the thing. Because we don't do research as Africans, we never talk about these issues so that we learn, without falling on the landmines. Remember now, we're talking about now we are 65, we are 60 plus. What do we do? Here's somebody who says 17. Oh, yes. Quickly. Your significant part of your life is between 20 and 40. Whatever you do then is what is going to ride you through for the rest of your life. In a lot of cases, a lot of men and a lot of women waste those years between 20 and 40. Then they start to want to pick it up at 40, right? No. So between 20 and 40 is when you need to be more serious with your life than you have been. So if you, in other words, you finish college, you take a job that has benefit. Don't take a job because of the money. Take a job because of the benefit. Look, if you start a job in your 20s making $30,000, but you have benefits, right? Benefits, what I mean by that, you have health, which is going to cover you and your family down the road. You have your 401, and some of this 401, they match it. A 20-something-year-old, I told my son, who is in his 20s with 401, I told him, you're not going to appreciate it right now because you're not bothered about it until you are about 45, 50. Right now, and the reason I'm mentioning this is the business is going to be your daddy. He's going to take care of that for you. You put in a little bit, daddy business put in their little bit. It builds over time. You don't even have to worry about where do I invest it? Who do I invest it with? Right? They take care of that. One day, you're 45 years old, you look at your 401, you have $300,000. You don't know what happened, where it came from. Right? So the point is, between 20 and 40, understand that is your critical moment. Don't look at your life that you're going to live to be 100 and you have time. Right? That's not it. It's a question of what you do with it. The other is always take a job that you are happy with. You don't want a job that you make money, but you're miserable at. So your occupation, your professional life is very significant. Not the ones your parents say you should do. You determine, you define what you want to do, not what looks good for the family that they will be bragging about, but you are unhappy with. The life is yours because at the end of the day, you have to answer to yourself. The other point is that, you need to look in the mirror and be truthful to yourself. Not what people say about you, but you. And because that's very significant. The day one passes on, people will forget you. I'm telling you, they will just forget you. Once they put that person down, everybody walks away. They're going back to their business. So you need to be very much critical. And as a male, put yourself interest, look further to say, what do I want to be? Where do I want to be when I'm 60? What kind of life do I want? Because that's the guideline for you in terms of preparation.
There are two questions that I don't know how they came about, but I will lump them together because they are similar. I guess one from a man and one from a woman. One says, and I'm sure that this is from a man, not that I'm sure I can tell from the name. How supportive should a competitive wife be to a man still trying to find his bearing after losing speed? Well, sorry, after a long spell of marriage. After a long spell of marriage. And then the other one, which I know is from a woman, says, how do you manage a man who is in a very serious competition with the wife's progress?
Yes. Both of them are going to be unhappy. First of all, once you're in a competitive relationship, you're going to fail. I mean, I don't want to beat around the bush about it. Here is the thing. Remember our socialization processes that has changed. Culture says the woman is subordinate, the man is the head of the family. Today, we cannot say that, right? Because we have the same orientation and education. So, what I advise is don't look at each other, because remember now, we are all going through the same process. We all get educated, we all have the same university education. Sometimes, your wife is doing better than you are not doing as well as. But the point is this, though: there is no equality in relationship, but there is equity. When you have a wife who is very competitive, or you have a husband who is very competitive with you, not with the others, I'm saying with you, the thing you need to worry about is equity. You have to sort out, what do I do best as compared to what you do best? Remember, there are women, the husband doesn't cook, does not know how to boil water today. This woman works at work, comes home, cook, takes care of the family, takes care of the children, and yet this husband wants to tell you he's head of household. You have this woman who is making more money. Say, for instance, she's a nurse. Oh, sorry, excuse me if I use that. But you work night duties, right? You need your sleep during the day. So your husband spends more time with the children running around, all right, does a little business, but he's not making money. But you forget that the reason you are able to do 15 hours, 12 hours of work is because somebody's taking care of your children, right? So you need to understand, my husband is not making as much as I am make, doesn't mean I'm better off, or the other way around. My wife is not making as much as I make because your wife is at home raising children and you're at work. So the point is equity, balance, right? The balance is, let both of us find what we are best at. And we do that. We're not in terms of saying we share this, your responsibility, my responsibility. We need a balance. And once we can find that balance, or you need a professional help to find the balance. But all I want to say is, in a competitive relationship, you're going to fail. This is why I tell men, when you are dealing with a woman, don't tell the woman, what are you bringing to the table? Once you start that, you're going to fail. What are you bringing to the table? What does that mean? Professionally, how much money I bring to the table? You think that is what a relationship endures or encounters? So you have to be very careful in terms of, you need to know how to complement each other, and you need to figure out a way to find a balance. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, I believe you did. And you also talked about professional help. And I think it's really, really good to seek that. I will ask the final question, and I'm sorry that I have to leave some questions on the table because of time. I like everyone to get some rest because it's part of enhancing our well-being. And the final question is also from Canada, which it says, why are people scared of aging or the aging process after their mid-50s and thereafter? And how can we prepare men in particular for this day? I think you have answered the last bit, but why are people scared of the aging process or of aging after they're in their mid-50s?
I teach a course in death and dying. I teach a course in family. And whenever I teach these courses, I always tell them death is inevitable, but we never discuss it. We don't talk about it. You're not going to take a course on it. Family is part of who we are. Nobody bothers about it. You want to do your chemistry, you want to do your biology, you want to do. So the point is that in our curriculum, in our educational setup, we need to plug in, place these issues that we need to be able to discuss. Life lifespan issues, aging is something that we need to be able to put in the curriculum so that we discuss over time. For example, young men need to understand that they're not always going to be hunters, pursuing little girls or doing that as a bravado part of who they are. There's a time where you need to be responsible, and so it's how we build this. The other point is we need research. Africans need to be involved in research, because it is through this research that we understand what we're lacking and how we need to be able to plug this and be able to change our systems, because there's a lot that is good about African values that we trash because they are native. This nativistic feeling for Africans, this colonial mindset that tells you if your child doesn't have an English name, right, is a problem. Those who were born in the colonial times, you cannot be baptized without an English name because that's the only way you go to heaven, right? So there are such factors that are important to us that we need to be able to build into our system and curriculum, right? So that we can be able to reflect on. And the reason we are scared is because we don't understand that which we do. The saying, that which we do not understand, we fear. And that which we fear, we hate. And that which we hate, we avoid. The more you get to understand and face these issues, the more understanding you get, the more you will live. And the last point, I've talked about relationship. Try to build a good relationship with your doctor, okay? Your main doctors, that has your history. You need to build that relationship so that every time you see your doctor, they go through. And when you get home, please discuss it with your wife, what the doctor said. In competitive relationship where you have a very competitive wife, you need Ohiwerei's help. You need Dr. Oni-Eseleh's help as a professional, or let him recommend somebody for you. But you need help. You cannot self-medicate this problem. Too many of us have this competitive in the relationship, is destroying them. They have the big house, they have all but they are not happy because of their competitive nature. You need professional help.
Thank you very much for ending on that note. I was going to ask you to talk us out, and I will still ask that. But I think that just as with just some of what you said now, because as a practicing psychotherapist, I see many of these things and I deal with them from my angle as a professional in my field. But what you have done today has been to provide a different perspective, which is a sociologist's perspective. I would say to you that just last year, conducting research in Nigeria on the quality of life of older Nigerians, I got to learn a lot. And just imagine how heartbreaking it was to see old people just crying because they are lonely, they are struggling, which led me to begin to think that there are many things that we need to decolonize. So I'm glad that you landed there just a short while ago, including decolonizing the pension system and making us really focus more and more on what is good about the African values, which really are a whole lot. But I think that this is a conversation that needs to continue to unfold. We need to continue to have these conversations. But today, I just want to thank you very much, and I still want to put on you that responsibility of talking us out.
Well, I'm glad you were able to put this together. And once you ask me, well, what can I do? But show up is very important, because a lot of people are hurting individually. They're not being able to speak about it publicly. Um, but the most important thing, I'm more worried about the men than the women. Um, and I think one of the things that a lot of men need to do is they need to step down from their high horse. You're not as important as you think you are. You always have to look at yourself in the mirror and just tell yourself you're not as important as you think you are. You know, I went to an event where, um, you know, this man was, they gave him a chair that was sideways to the podium. He got offended that they didn't give him a chair that was facing the podium, but every seat, you came late, and but he still wanted that seat. So one of the other things, be very open to your wife and children. You have to really be open and let them understand, that you're human and you have feelings. You can't bottle a lot of things in. And when help needs to be, let it be. But in a lot of cases where you find these disconnections, is because you never brought in the cultural aspect of living into your lives. You were just, we're in America, my child is American, my child plays with the child down the street, they're all American. But you're not. You will always be an immigrant. Let me repeat. You are not an American. You carry American passport. You're not an American. You're not a Canadian. You are an African. In your head, you are. The last point. Also understand that children who understand that their parents don't have, take care of their parents. They are more giving because they truly believe that their parents, they need that support. And it helps them in their maturity. Just because we are financially able does not mean you look at your child and say, I'm just doing this for you to help yourself, not me. I used to tell my kids, if you don't take care of me when they were young, I will put a curse on you. I mean, it was a joking thing, but they remembered. I mean, don't act as if you are invincible, is what I'm saying. And when, this educated African is a problem because the colonialists gave them so much power and put them over the traditional rulers that they can even fire traditional rulers, dismiss them. So we carry this air of arrogance. And I'm saying that arrogance wears out by the time you get to be 50. And sorry, by the time you get to be 60, 65. Carry yourself with some level of humility. And people will be there for you. All right. And find support community. You need to find people, not many, 1, 2 that you can be comfortable with. And for the young ones, just understand that your future is loaded between the age that I gave to you in terms of 20 to 40. You go to college, you finish, you take a professional life, and the stages of transition that I gave in terms of Daniel Levittson is very real, right? And we need to be able to do that. Plus, we need the research, right? This is the beginning. This is like a beginning, and what we've discussed today brings more questions. You understand? And we get again to talk about those questions. That brings up another question. Today is not solutions as much as understanding that there is a problem. You have to affirm there is a problem. To those in the diaspora, which is worse, and to those in Nigeria, and the fact that we are all over the place, and sometimes your family is no longer with you.
When I wrote my recently published novel, Whenever Tomorrow Comes, I was just a writer, engaged in that craft of writing his next book. But once it was done and published and began to speak with friends and others, I began to realize how pathetic the process had been and everything about it. And while I do not wish to date myself, I do wish to underscore the fact that everything you have said today carries a weight of importance that we must not neglect. The importance of relationships, the importance of caring for ourselves, the importance of focusing on our well-being, the importance of success, driving success, but the importance of preparing for that time when we can no longer do many things. What I want to say is, first of all, thank you very much for being our guest today. And thanks also to everyone who has joined us. And I hope that you share the sentiments that I feel right now. And for everyone who's been here, you will receive an email from me that will not only thank you for coming, but will also be asking you to let us know what issues you would like us to address further in this forum. I should say finally that it's important to know that for Dr. Ohiwerei and myself, this is not an exercise in academics. This we have done because we care. We care about our people. We care about humanity. We want to also leave that legacy that says we not only did express care, but we also really showed it and that we did that work. And it is my hope that this 17-year-old who has watched us today will take something away from there and realize that the people who are trying to contribute to life and contribute to the world and better living are old now, but that we are expecting people like him to take that mantle and run with it and create for themselves a better world than the one that they met. So I will say to everyone in Nigeria, the UK, and Ghana, and I know there's at least one person in Cameroon, please thank you very much for coming and good night. And to everyone in the US and Canada, it's still early here, so we can still talk on the phone if you have my phone number. If you don't have my phone number, we can still talk via email or whatever. However you found out about this and joined us, I am grateful that you did. So have a good day, everyone, and thank you.
Thanks.